Welcome back to Kettlebells and Cocktails. I'm your host, John, back with my bestie, Nikki. Nikki, how are you?
Tired.
Uh,
How are you?
I told somebody today I have a post games hangover,
Yeah,
but I'm not convinced it's not an actual hangover from all the alcohol I had.
entirely
So,
possible.
yeah, so who knows? It's definitely there's definitely a post games hangover thing that happens though after like 4 or 5 days of watching other people fitness and you're out of your routine and you're out eating and drinking every night.
Oh my god,
And,
yeah.
and there's I don't know what it's like. I'm sure it's exactly the same for you. The social aspect of literally talking to hundreds of people every day.
Yeah.
And I say
Yeah.
that with love, like so grateful for every person I got to talk to. But man, after 5 days, people are mentally fried,
Yeah,
like
it's a
totally
lot.
fried.
I have like a really large social battery that does not drain often, but I definitely could like just sleep for a week straight and not interact with a ton of people for the week after games. But neither one of us have that option. So here we are.
I know I felt like mine drained extra quick this time. I
Oh yeah.
honestly don't know why. It's just
The
like
heat was the heat.
maybe it was just, I don't know. It was really busy very
Mhm.
quickly. Which is a good thing, we'll get into that, but I mean, that was a really good thing, and I think I went into it with some preconceived ideas of what the week was gonna be like, and that
Mm,
probably put a little stress on me a little bit, and for the first time in ever, actually, I went without a press pass, but I had obligations, like charity obligations,
sure.
so I was actually busier than I would have been if I were just fending for myself.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I think there's a little stress factor that played into it that made it hard.
Yeah,
That makes
I hear
sense.
you. But I had a blast. It
Did
is
you?
for sure. Yeah. I'm exhausted, but like in the best way. It's
Oh.
it's the best week of the year. It always is.
It de
100%.
it definitely has its moments. You always come away with stories, like great stories,
Mhm.
fun things. We'll tell a bunch of those tonight, I'm sure. I had
Mhm.
several where, I look back on, "Well, that was a first." And then others that were just like, rinse and repeat for Madison that will be a
Sure.
last, like kinda the last time we do this in Madison.
Yeah.
So it was kinda interesting. So I sat down and put all my thoughts into hits and misses.
Oh my god, you're so prepared.
I am
I landed at 10 o'clock last night and I'm like, let's do this. It's fresh in my mind. So let's format this show off of your list and I'll just add color.
Well, I will say this before I get into it because I don't want anyone to think like as I was looking at the list, it's like, man, I got a lot of misses here. And I only have them out of love. Like I told someone yesterday, day before yesterday, I think all of us only critique the games because we love the sport and we love CrossFit so much we want it to be perfect.
Yeah, that's fair. It's
You know?
okay to be critical of a brand that you love because you want it to be so great and you know that it has the capability of, whatever, or maybe reaching more people,
Yeah.
doing better, whatever.
Yeah, and I do think, like, if I just, let off with, was the game's good or bad, I'd give it a really high grade. Like,
Sure.
I have plenty of things I think that they need to look back on and say, all right, that was a mess, or here's something we need to go back and correct or work on or fix or whatever. And there are plenty of things that were great. I think as a whole, when I look back on the week, it was a really exciting week.
Mm.
Lots of, for me, like, probably the biggest takeaway was I met a ton of affiliate owners, more than I've ever met before and it maybe part of that is because I am an affiliate owner now. A lot of them were like identifying themselves to me, but I just feel like I met a lot
Yeah.
and a lot that were traveling internationally.
Cool.
Like I one thing that happened to me more often this time than any other trip, I got recognized like out in the city more,
Oh,
and which tells me that the games is busier than it's been previous years.
I felt like it was. I felt like even on Wednesday, Thursday, it was already like slammed.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I just remember like I had this one. I was at dinner one night and we're sitting there eating tacos, and I don't know how much I'd had to drink at that point, but it was
Mhm.
sizable. And these 2 guys come walking by, and they're like, "Hey, we know you." And I forget where they were from, but they were international. And it was really like a nice exchange. And I'm thinking this is really cool. Like these guys, it's not like they're like me driving in from Ohio across the cornfields. Like they're getting on a
Right.
plane and like making a big boy trip to get out here,
It's
you
a
know?
serious effort, serious
Yeah.
cash too.
Yeah. You need a passport to get in and,
Yeah.
you got to do the real deal. And I was like, man, that's commitment to the cause.
Yeah, it
Like,
is.
I mean, I just show up and like, let's see what happens. And these guys are like traveling around the world. It was very, very cool, and they were both like 5'4", so they were definitely CrossFitters, so that was
For
cool.
sure.
I love that. I felt like a giant. It was
Is
fun
that
though.
on the pros list? Tallest
It's
man
not even it's
there.
not yeah, it's not even on the list really. It's just like the fact that I saw felt like I met so many people that had traveled international, so many affiliate
Yeah.
owners, the crowds and the people I interacted with seemed really positive and energetic and happy, which made me feel like the brand and just CrossFit in general, like people are feeling really good about the future,
Mhm.
which I thought was great. And I thought the volunteers were the same way. Like I think in years past, the volunteers like have been happy to be there, but they seemed slightly tired and downtrodden some because it's a hard job. And I didn't see that at all this year. Like I
That's
thought
interesting.
all of them seemed really excited to be there and happy and like wanted to be a part of something special. And that was different.
Oh, that's
So
interesting.
so
I
just
I
to
always feel like the volunteers are just wow. Like, I'm just always in awe of them. Like, these are people who pay their own hard-earned money to come out there for free, like, they pay their own way, they get, like, a shirt, sometimes they get a pair of shoes, sometimes
right.
not, and they're sweating, like,
Yeah.
the equipment team that's changing out all the and that job is stressful, I don't care what anybody says. Like, you gotta be on time, on pace, you never stop, like, their shifts are long, like, just every volunteer it's so strange, we have the strangest sport in the world that we would not survive without volunteers. I mean, it's massive, I don't even know how many, thousands probably
Yeah, yeah.
for games?
What's even funnier
Insane.
is, like, what I had never considered or thought of, like, I was in the Noble tent, I was actually buying Noble stuff, if you can believe that,
I have
and
questions.
yeah, I bought a lot, and this woman comes up to me, she goes, "Hey, can I help you?" And I'm like, "No, I'm good, I'm just looking." She's like, "Hey, do I know you?" I'm like, "Yeah, you know me."
Yeah, bitch,
And
I'm important.
yeah, so we start talking, and I'm like, "How long have you worked for Noble?" She goes, "I don't, I'm a volunteer." And I thought, "Okay,
In the
that's cool."
Noble tent?
Yep. And I thought
Nuh-uh.
that yep, swear to God, like, it doesn't work for them directly. It wasn't like they bust somebody in from
Right, right, right.
Noble headquarters to come work this tent. They just found some local volunteer and hired him for Noble for the weekend, and that's cool. Like, these are just members like the rest of us out doing their thing, and they decided to come to the games and get in for a few days and put in some work while they're here, and she got assigned to Noble. And by the way, doing a great freaking job.
Nice.
Like, really, like, good retail IQ. I was like, "Man, I wanna hire this woman to come work on one of my branches."
It's funny you say that. I found a lot of the Noble staff, like, particularly helpful in a
Yeah.
sense that I have not seen or felt in retail in a long time. I was like, "Wow, everyone's just happy to be here."
Yeah, it was great. Just, all in all, I would say it was the weekend was a big success. So I don't want anybody to come away from this as I'm giving a big list of 10 things I think they need to do better of like, "All right, John's shitting on the CrossFit Games." I mean, I'm going to a little, but
Yeah.
but I think by and large, I think the whole thing was a big success, and if God forbid if anybody listens to this and decides to put anything to action, it's all out of love, not because I'm wanting to kick them in the teeth.
Yeah, for sure. I think critical feedback is always appropriate. 100%. Let's hear it. I'm ready.
Where do you wanna start? You wanna do hits, misses? You're the pro. I'm
I
just
think well, as this week has shown, I'm clearly not.
you interviewed people all weekend. I watched you out on the floor. You did
I
great.
did. I did. Thank you. It was really fun. It was a lovely year of interviews.
Matter of fact, I had a laugh at some point. I'm not laughing at the situation, but I laughed because it wasn't you. Your counterpart who was doing the men's side, when he interviewed Justin, he's like, "So, Justin, you really sucked ass on those 2 first events."
I
And I was
did
like,
hear that. I
"Oh
heard
my
that
god."
question.
It was
I
the
was like,
hardest question I've ever heard. I'm like,
Did you
"Bro."
hear the well, I think he said something this Mike Arsenault, who is, by the way, just a doll. He's like the sweetest, nicest man on the planet. If you haven't had a chance to meet him, highly recommend. He's wonderful,
He's
super
great.
caring.
He's
Um,
great, but man, it was
I
tough.
was sitting up with Matt and Hunter, and I heard that question, and he said something along the lines of like, "You're coming off your like 2 worst career finishes of all time," and he was going with like, "But you're starting to bring it back, like, how are you climbing out of the hole?" Whatever it may be. But I did hear the crowd be like, "Ooh."
Here's the way it came off. He's like,
In my head, I was like, great question, Mike. I maybe would have approached it differently, but you
"Oh."
know what? That's why there's 2 of us. We have
He
different
was
approaches.
he was trying to work to, "You did great in this last event." What he
Yeah.
started with was "Hey, you really sucked in that first event and then got even worse in the next one." And I'm like, "Oh," and the whole crowd did kinda groan. Like,
You were
oh,
like, "Oh,
it
no."
wasn't quite a boo, but it was real close.
Yeah.
It was
It
real
was
close.
but Mike's out there rather asking tough questions that
Yeah.
bear asking. So in that respect, he has more courage than I do.
It was a fair
It
question,
was
but
100%.
I think our community it's funny, I think often our community, we go like, "Hey, we wanna be a pro sport," until you get a pro question. And then you're like, "Mm, do we? Because we love
Mhm.
Justin. We don't wanna seem like he was almost in tears. They had the camera on his mom, like, all of a sudden, it was like a real NFL moment
Yeah, yeah.
and, like, a real pro sport moment.
Yeah.
And all of us, we love that family, like,
Yes.
yeah, I love Mama Dearest, like, she's, like, the sweetest
She's
woman
the
that ever
best.
lived, and Justin too, like, just the nicest young man, and you see, like, someone who had a kind of rough start to the weekend, and you're like, "Man, that was a tough question. That was not fun."
Yeah. But it was
So
great. It worked. That moment was great. I was pissed at Mike all week because he got every emotional interview. I was like, "What the heck, man? What the heck?" And because Laura kept winning and I kept talking to her over and over, and I don't know if you noticed, but she's just not super talkative. Like some athletes, when
Yeah,
you ask a question, they'll kind of like dive into like all the things and they'll be a little bit longer and more long-winded. Laura's just really direct, which is there's nothing wrong with that, but I didn't get a ton out of her until the very end, which is fair. She's kind of in the zone. A lot of athletes don't want to get deep or emotional until, everything is done and they have a chance to really unwind and reflect back on the week. But I was like, damn it, Mike. Like, getting all the tearing up, great storylines on the men's side. What the heck?
yeah.
Come on.
That's funny. That's true, though.
Yeah.
So true.
Yeah.
Alright, well, you still are the interviewer. Where do you wanna start? Hits or misses?
Let's do one of each. Let's like go
Okay.
down the line and go like ping pong.
Okay. Well, which one? Good or bad? Where do you want me to
Start
start?
with a start with a bad.
Start with the bad.
Start with
Alright.
a bad.
We'll
Or
we'll
needs improvement.
we'll do the easiest one because it's first part of the week. The age group and adaptive was a monster miss.
Let's talk about it.
Monster miss. And let me tell you, like, here's the funny thing. So, I've actually been talking to him today some. So Chris Madigan, who's the PR guy, sends out press releases all the time, and because I'm quote unquote media, even though I'm not, I am on the press releases, and so I get them. And
Wait,
so
I don't get the pieces.
I think maybe
Okay.
well, it's probably because you're on the inside and I do the outside the press pass. I think I got on his press
Yeah.
release at some point. He's a great dude, by the way. But
I hear really great things about him. I've never met him really, but
so a few days before the games, maybe a day before or 2 days before, I forget how long, I get the email that says, and it's like in all caps, adaptive and age groups will be live streamed. And then it says, "We'll have a static camera." Now, for those of us that watch semis, I know what static camera means, and I just
right.
looked at it, and I'm like, "Man, I am getting my memes ready now because
Yeah.
this is not gonna go well." And sure shit, I was driving through wherever I was, Indiana, I guess, yeah, because that's where I stopped driving in, and I started getting DMs from people. But the live stream was up, and it was from, like, 10,000 feet away. All you
Yeah.
could see is the field and tiny little ants of people running around and, had an announcer and you could see the people's names on the side, and some people sent me some images, and I was like, "Yep, I mean, I saw that coming. I saw that coming." It was not good. I don't mean to laugh at it. It's just like it's just a bad situation, and a lot of
Yeah.
hurt feelings on the
Yeah.
adaptive and age group side. And all I could sit there is thinking is like, I'm a banker, so I get it. It's expensive to stream, but you got to make a choice here, man. You're either all in on the adaptive and age groups or get out of the business, like one or the other, right? And pick because So I started doing some research and started asking around, like, well, what's it cost to stream this? Like,
Oof.
what's the expense? Because I also know that the majority of the people that do the open that fund this shit are between the ages of 35 and up. And they're the ones not getting coverage here, so they got a legit gripe on at least on the age group side. And I don't know if these numbers are right. I asked someone on the media team for the record, I need to say this out loud. I did not ask Nikki. And I did not ask you for a reason because I try to keep you out of my bullshit.
I
That
appreciate
yeah,
that. Thank
that way if
you.
CrossFit ever gets mad at me for saying something, I can legit say, "Hey, Nikki had nothing to do with this. Don't do no blowback on her."
They'll still
You
get
know?
mad at me by proxy, let's be real.
Yeah, but at a minimum, I always feel good about my conscience.
All right. So you asked other people on the media team.
Yeah, so I asked other people and they're like, it's 100 to 300 grand, which is a pretty big range,
That's
but
a big swing.
It's a big swing, but I mean, 100 grand is not a tiny amount of money.
No, that's a
Neither.
lot of
Yeah.
money. Oh my
Yeah,
god.
it's a lot of money, but basically for a sport people don't watch. I mean,
Mhm.
I'm gonna be real here because I have deep love for the adaptive group particularly, but the reality is it's like, all right, you're gonna take 100 to 300 grand and have a few thousand people tune in. Is it worth it? So, like, I understand the hard decision of saying we're not gonna do it. It's the visibility of advertising that you're gonna do it, and then it's shitty. As a matter of fact, I was watching Castro's video earlier that he put out today. And I've actually come to like those things as much as Dave and I have this lovely relationship. I actually have come to like it.
I
And
actually don't think you have a relationship at all.
I know.
I
Well,
think
yeah.
you may it's a one-way
Yeah,
relationship.
that's what I mean.
Yeah.
And so I was watching it and he quite literally said, I put it in quotes. I typed it when he said it because I can't believe he just said that out loud. He goes, it was a little more than doing nothing at all. And I'm like, you're
He's
damn right it was. It absolutely was a little more than doing nothing at all. Like
he'll
you
be
should
real
have,
with you.
yeah, I'm like, you should have done nothing at all. Like, is there,
Okay. Okay. I have big feelings about that.
well, here was my thought. When I say you should have done nothing at all, if you're not gonna stream it, don't stream it. What you should have done, if it's 100 to 300,000 for 50 grand, and I don't know if that's a good number, I'm just making this shit up, but let's just say I give you a $50,000 budget. You can't tell me you can't go do some amazing, and I mean amazing online profiles of every single person that competed in those divisions, and then use that for future marketing and make it so much better than watching, the 60-year-olds out there doing kettlebell thrusters or whatever the hell they were doing,
Okay.
you know?
Okay. I have big feelings about this whole topic. I think it was a big miss to not fully stream age group and adaptive. I fully agree and give them full ass coverage. And I was on age groups for years as a sideline reporter when I first started working games. So like I have a particular love for the broadcast specifically of that division because the stories are
Sure.
incredible
Yeah,
and
they're
the
great.
people are incredible. So, in general, I think we can all agree we would prefer, as fans of the sport, as people who have friends who are out there competing, we would like to see it streamed. I do think it is a massive cost that people underestimate. And it is a massive undertaking to get it all together that people also underestimate. So when I just I just I just hate it makes my skin crawl when people are like, "Oh, just don't do this and stream this instead." And it's like you've no idea what you just said, so I appreciate that you're like fully ignorant about the situation. It's not that easy, but in general, like I do wish that resources were put over in that direction, but I agree with you, John, that from a business standpoint, I understand where CrossFit's coming from. If they have budget cuts and if they're trying to grow the sport in a very specific kind of a way, that might be something that falls off the table. I don't like it, but I get where they're coming from. Where I have an issue is at semis, when we didn't stream some events, people were very vocal. They were like, just put a big static camera up. That's all we want. Don't do nothing. Just put a static camera up. That's all we want. I can't believe you won't stream this. Just put one camera that we just want to see it.
Did you
And then
see the
and
static
then they
camera they put up? Did
uh-huh.
you see it?
And that's exactly what they did. And now people are like, I can't believe you only put a static camera up. What I do think is I do think that they should have communicated earlier what the streaming situation was going to be like. I just think that there's no way to make our particular, like, insulated community happy unless it's a full ass broadcast, which would be great if CrossFit, the business, had all the money in the world, but clearly they don't. So
Well,
respect it.
yeah, I don't know which is the answer. I would say to the point of the static camera, don't put it 1,000 yards away. It was so far away you couldn't see shit. Like, I think
But
when people go, "Give me a static camera," they want it close so they can actually see the people, and to your point, they don't know what broadcast is, so
right,
I
yeah.
get that. My point is like, clearly communicate to the people what they're getting or not getting, or
Sure.
don't
Yes,
or
that I agree with. Yeah.
the
And I
community.
but wasn't it 20 lanes deep at some point? Like some events were all 20 lanes.
I can
Do you
send you
have
the
to
I can send you the photo, it's miserable. I did a meme
I
of
know.
it. Look up my meme. Look up my meme, Nikki. It was very funny, and it was terrible. It was really bad. My point is like, I I understand the hurt feelings of people going, so and so wanted my parents wanted to watch this, or
I
our
get it.
gym wanted
Yeah,
to
I
watch
hear
it,
that.
and, like, that's gonna happen. The adaptive and age group is a lot like the WNBA, like, nobody's watching that shit. They're not. No offense to the WNBA, but nobody is watching what you guys do. I couldn't name 3 teams, swear to God. and this is no different. So there's no money in it. So I get why CrossFit isn't doing it. My point is tell people we're not gonna do it, and
Sure.
then reallocate that money and give them something because bluntly, they fund the open. The adapters don't, but the age group does,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and I do think the other area where I think it's a huge miss, and, I'm saying this as somebody who has a gym with a lot of adaptive athletes. Like, I had 3 that were in the top 10 of the intellectual division that would not have been at Madison regardless, but I got a lot of adaptive athletes in my gym. And so I'm very passionate about what they do and the fact that they're competing in the open. I think giving those divisions some sort of coverage that's actually used in the marketing to draw more people in so they can see others doing what they do. Like I've told the story 100 times, but I can't tell you how many times I get DMs from someone who saw an adaptive athlete doing what they now know they can do. They're like, "Oh,
Right.
I
Yeah.
couldn't do that. I don't think I could do that." And then they see somebody with, missing an appendage, Amy
Yeah.
Bream, who's just on our show, for instance.
Yep.
They see her doing it and they're like, "Oh shit, maybe I can." And they go out and do it. And that's how, as affiliate owners, we get members. So
Yeah.
I think there is a miss there from a marketing standpoint that helps us bring people that bluntly need us the most. And the people that need CrossFit the most are not the 25-year-olds that see Laura win the title. It's the 40-year-olds that haven't worked out in 2 decades that need to come to a gym and start working out before they get heart disease, or someone who's got some sort of impairment and they've never worked out before and they're not going to
Yeah.
have a long lifespan, but all of a sudden they find health and wellness, and
Yeah. Well, I would argue that watching the elite athletes win is inspirational for everyone, not just like I think that watching Laura win is inspirational for a 25-year-old man and a 60-year-old woman with a heart condition and everyone all at once. But I do think that representation is really important.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
to your point, like having a wider array of people who are represented on the stream and in the marketing efforts, which I do think that they're doing a better job at, especially recently. But having the opportunity to gather a lot of that content at the games would be huge.
Yep.
So I just feel like if we did what we were supposed to do at this CrossFit Games and help grow the sport endemically via the ESPN deal and all sorts of other things that were going on, then hopefully CrossFit has the budget to allocate to more different types of coverage again in the future. That would be my
Yep.
wish. And or someone actually brought up a really interesting point to me at games when we were talking about it. They were like, what if adaptive and age group had their own full on separate competition or competitions? Maybe it's one of each. And I never had thought about it before, but it was just an interesting thought and like really devoting all the energy and effort into just that coverage for just that event.
I love it.
It'd be cool, huh?
Yep, I love it. Make the games teams and indies only, and take masters and, our age group and adaptives and give them their own thing.
Yeah. I had never thought about it, and they were like, "Well, like, we have the Olympics and we have the Special Olympics, and it's its own whole ass thing." And I was like, "Huh,
Yeah.
yeah, I kinda love that
It
idea."
it would also change the partnerships you could pull in, to your point of the Special Olympics. Like, you could pull in some unique partnerships that would want to
Mhm.
be a part of that, and it could really help. So,
Yeah.
hopefully that's, they're pretty smart people running the company right now. I think they'll probably figuring this out without our
Yeah,
help,
for
but
sure. For sure.
but
I will say that what I saw of the age groups and adaptive events while I was there was unbelievable. And
yeah,
every person who is at the games, regardless of division, is a CrossFit Games athlete, and I think that's badass.
yep, I agree with
Yeah.
that. Yep. Alright, now where are we going now? To the hits?
A pro, yeah. Hit.
Pro. Well, I would say all the stuff we just talked about on the age group and adaptive, I told directly to Don Fall, so nobody blow him up, please, or start blowing up
Yeah.
CrossFit like they haven't heard this. He's heard it.
Yeah, of
But that
course.
but that's actually a pro. He was really visible at this event.
Mhm.
Like, I ran into him multiple times, and I don't mean like I didn't have any behind the scenes access, any kind of special access this time. I was just out in the crowds.
Cahoots pass.
No cahoots pass whatsoever, and I ran into him right out in the middle of Vendor Village one day, sitting there literally just watching the sport,
Mm,
and ran into him there. I did get invited to a charity cocktail thing that Forging Youth Resilience invited me to, and he was at that with Nicole Carroll, and
great.
so I had a chance to chat with him there, and then that's one of the place I saw him, I forget where, but my point is he was, like, really visible and out amongst the crowd, and I think that's really, really cool, to get direct feedback from affiliate owners and members and
Yep.
vendors, and and just be willing to take it. And to his credit, dude is he's a really good listener, which I don't think is unique to that position, but he seems to actually take it in. Often when I talk to people in his position, and it's actually pretty often in my banking role, that it feels like they're looking through you. And
Mm.
in his case, I think he's actually taking it in and processing. All right, is this something I should do something with, or is this just fully complaining?
Mhm.
I think he's actually, like, trying to figure it out, and I like
Yeah.
that about him, and I just appreciated that he was actually there being a part of the process.
Yeah.
And then I heard, some stories of him doing some workouts, like, joining actual workouts and how
Yeah.
hard he actually I said this to him once, I'm like, "Dude, I heard you were doing handstand walks," and he laughed, and he was telling me the story, and I'm like, "No, no, you don't understand. I heard you worked really hard, and that's cool."
Yeah.
Like, that's really cool to think, like, he's actually trying to learn like the rest of us,
Yes.
and
He
I love
had
that.
he had Chris Henshaw critique his running form live in front of people.
Yeah, I would not run in front of Chris Henshaw if you paid me money. I'd be like,
Oh,
"I'm good, Chris. I am good with
all
my mediocre
set.
form." Yeah, it was
All
cool.
set. We gotta get him back on the show because that man, I could listen to him talk just for days straight.
Who,
Like
Henshaw?
Henshaw. He's
Okay, yeah,
full of stories. I mean, we can get Don back on the show too.
yeah.
Don's cool. But just Chris Henshaw is like
Oh, that
he's
guy.
so smart
Right,
and he's so like just the way his brain works is so unique and he's full of stories. He knows the athletes so well and he takes to heart every single relationship that he has with an athlete. It's like they're all his children. Like he cares so much about all of them and the decisions they make in the workouts, in the tests, in the at the games, like in the competition. Like he just and everyone blows him up.
right,
Anytime, like even if you don't work with him, if you worked with him once like 10 years ago and there's some test that you need to do, everyone's like texting him like, "Hey Chris, how do you think I should do with this?"
right.
And he'll answer everyone all the time. He's just the best. We did an episode with him like 150 years ago. If you didn't listen to it, you should go back and listen to
No,
it.
invite him back on. I
We
don't
should
really
do
know
it.
him that well. I saw him a couple of times. I didn't really talk to him. I don't really know him that well. He's your friend, not mine.
Yeah.
But yeah, invite him on. It'd be fun.
He's not your friend. He's n
He seems like a good dude for sure.
Mhm.
All right, next we're going back to Mrs.
Okay.
You got to know where I'm going next.
If the first one was not streaming age groups, oh, I know which one you're doing
Yeah,
next.
it's the 5K, quote unquote. Oh my God, sweet mother of God. How do you not measure the 5K properly? I cannot wrap my brain around. I realize, maybe it's an honest mistake. And I'm gonna say up front because people give me shit about this. It did not affect the outcome of anything. I
Right.
fully agree with that. Did not change who won, did not change who lost. Didn't change anything in the sport of CrossFit. My complaint with it is that we advertise this thing as a cross country 5K, which is the most standardized race on the planet. You know how many 5Ks I've been to, Nikki? Mira ran cross country for years. I've been to so many freaking 5Ks in my life. Like I couldn't even tell you how many. I got medals on the wall in my garage from them. We advertise this thing on Runner's World that we're doing it, or PR'd it out there. And then we just did 5,000 yards instead. It's the most cross-fittingly CrossFit mistake we could make. That part I kinda love because it gives me meme material for days. It just drove me crazy, but
I don't know. I'm sorry. Maybe I should be more outraged about this than I am, but I just don't think it's that big of a deal.
I
I
don't think it's a
just
big
don't.
deal.
I
I
just
don't
think
think it's a big deal in the idea of the sport. I think it's a big deal in the fact that we promote this, like, "Look how great our people are," and then when you actually do the math on it, they're great, but they're average runners, as they should
I ha
be. They're
I haven't seen
CrossFitters. They're
I haven't seen anything that said, "Look at this athlete's time, what an amazing 5K." I have
when
not seen
we first put them out, it's like, "Hey, look, Emily Roth did 17.5 minute. Roman did 16:57," but
oh,
when you do the math on it, he didn't. Like,
but
we're
I didn't see any of like, I didn't never saw CrossFit be like, "Oh my god, look at Emily Rolf's perfect 5K in 17 point whatever." Like, I'm sorry, I don't think it's that big of a deal. I think we had a live course with the very specific area that we had in and around the Coliseum with lots of different terrain and up and down, and I think when it was measured out, it was about 5K, and so they called the event
well, it was
5K.
not about 5K, it was 5,000 yards. So it's like they missed an entire lap, Nick. They missed 400 meters. It's not about a 5K. It wasn't even close to a 5K. That's the point. Like, again, it doesn't change the
Eh.
outcome of the race. I just think if you're gonna go on the at our Super Bowl event, which is what this is. This is the biggest event we're going to do all year long. And you say part of the test of fitness is the fittest on earth. That's the title we give these people is we're going to give them the same standardized race that everybody's grandma runs a turkey trot. At
Okay.
the same distance that you and like I know my 5K time. Do you know your 5K time?
Yeah,
Probably. Right.
yeah.
All right. Now you can compare yourself to Emily, but you
So,
can't.
I
She
see where
ran
you're
400
coming from
meters
with that.
less than you. That's my point.
I see where you're coming from with that. For me, I don't I didn't get the vibe that CrossFit was like, "We're gonna do this exact distance because every single other person at the turkey trot does it." What I got out of that test was, we are gonna make them run. To be good at CrossFit, you need to run, and we are going to make them change elevation, and we are going to make them change terrain, and we are going to make them deal with running in and out of the crowd, and we're gonna make them do all the stuff that is the course of the dog park.
Yeah.
And
If we had
nowhere
advertised it
in
that way,
that
it would have been
n
great.
nowhere in that was I like, "Oh, my 5K time will definitely be comparable to that," because that's a very specific event at a specific location and a specific test of fitness.
As
So,
soon
and
as I
just
saw the
to
advertising, I started putting my scores up. They go, "We're doing a 5K." I'm like, "Great. I know my 5K time. Now I know how much faster Pat Vellner is than me," which is pretty fast, by the way.
yeah, that's super
A
fast.
lot faster for the record.
I can see where you're coming from with that. I just don't share the same sentiment. I just don't.
Well, I
I just
just
don't think
like
of all the things that we could, and I gripe about things. I have gripes. I have, what are we calling them? Misses.
misses.
That one, I'm just kinda like, I don't really
Maybe
think
I'm
it's
just a
that
little
big of a
salty
deal. I
because
just don't.
I feel like I was the recipient of the 10,000 bring Dave back comments. And then Dave's back for the biggest event and they can't break got a freaking yardstick and figure this thing out. Like, well, actually that's what they use as yardstick, not they
I
didn't
would
measure in
actually
meters,
I would
you
actually
know?
love I don't they've never, like, CrossFit itself has not really commented on the distance, right? Like, I don't know.
They will. Now, don't get me wrong. I fully believe Dave would take full accountability. I'm not saying that they're gonna thumb their nose at this and go, "Oh, no big deal." I just think it's our biggest stage and, quite literally brought in Runner's World to say we're doing this, and we called it a 5K. If we'd done what you said, I'd have 0 problems. If we'd only called it a cross country run, or even if we called it a turkey trot, just don't put 5K behind it. It could have
Well,
been
and
an undisclosed distance. I would have been great with that. We're just gonna make them run and see how they do. That would have been great too.
I don't know. I just to I'm so sorry. I just don't think it's that big of a deal. I think that they put out the whole thing and they were like, "You gotta run to be good at CrossFit." What's the distance? A little less than 5K. Okay.
I think
I just
here's what's all right. Well, when I do Murph next year, I'm gonna do half mile increments. You tell me if it's a big deal or not.
I
It's a
just don't
spec
think that's
it's a
the
s
same thing. I don't.
it's absolutely the same thing. By the way, the Helen 400-meter runs were not 400 meters.
Yeah. What
And and and
is
this
your run at your gym a perfect 400 meters? Because it's
I
not at my gym.
I'm not running at the CrossFit Games.
I just
we're doing prescribed workouts, and 5K is the most standardized run in all of running. Like,
I agree.
it's like
I
everybody
agree.
does them, and just don't advertise it that way. That's the point. Like, don't call them 400 meters at the games if they're not 400 meters. Call them laps. Call them something else other than what they are. Because to your point, is it like we're doing these workouts in our gym, and we want to be able to have the same experience and be able to do the same comparison to everyone else. It's like, I don't know, I could give you 100 analogies. I guess my point is that on the biggest stage on the planet, do what you say you're going to do.
Yeah,
Don't
I see where you're coming from with that. I do. It just doesn't really upset me that much where I'm like, yeah, I guess
I'm
it should
not
have been longer, or they should have said like it's a little under 5K, but okay.
I wouldn't say I'm upset. I don't think that's the right way to characterize it. I'm saying this is our Super Bowl event and details matter. Like the details absolutely matter. Otherwise, can we start changing them? 21-15-9 now becomes 20-18-8. Like,
Yeah, that feels like a stretch to me. It's
no,
okay if we disagree.
I'm not. That's my point is, it's like, I think if you're going to say you're doing something, do it. And particularly if you're doing an event that falls outside of CrossFit, like a 5K is not a traditional CrossFit thing. Follow me? Like, we've never done to my knowledge, they've never done a 5K at the CrossFit Games ever, right?
The ranch run was 6K? 5K
Alright,
is actually one of the all-time most programmed workouts on .com.
Okay, then it should be 5K. That's the point. If it's that standardized, it should actually be 5K. That's why I'm saying it's a huge miss. Like, how do you miss something as simple as measuring?
I don't
And
know. I don't know if they missed it in measuring or if they like went out and measured the
they
course.
did 5,000 yards.
Eh,
That's the exact distance it
maybe
came up to
that's
be.
how I am not willing to speculate on how it happened exactly. I don't know if they mismeasured it or if they measured the run the way that the course is laid out in the dog park, and they came back and they were like, "It's about 5K, so let's call this
They
the
measured
test
5,000
to name it
yards.
5K."
That's exactly what it came out to be.
Either way,
I'm just
I have
oh
other misses that are grinding my gears more than this
oh,
one. That's
I have
just me.
plenty.
That's just me.
I just think it's, it's not that different for me than, when we did the first week of the open and they can't count kilograms either. And whose bar was it? Laura's bar, maybe, that didn't have enough weight on it?
Or Gabby's? I can't remember.
I forget. It's just like when you're on your biggest stage, like math matters. That's all I'm saying.
I think we can
Get
all
the
agree
math
that
right.
math matters in life.
Yeah, get the math right. That's all I'm saying. Like, get the distance right. Again, it didn't, it's not, I'm not salty about it. Like, it didn't affect the outcome, nor should it. Like, a dis is a distance, whether they're running 5K, 6K, 8K, like the fittest is going to pull that one out. And I think everybody looks back on it and goes, yeah, the fastest people won that one. Although
Wait, can we
I will say I was shocked at how fast Roman is. That big dude can run when he has this.
he's an incredible endurance athlete, and you know who can tell us stories about him is Chris Hinshaw. So we need to get him back on the show.
Yeah.
Can we talk about can I like segue into one of my hits for the
Yeah. Yeah.
week
Yep.
based off of that? Can we both objectively just agree that Yola Hoste looks exactly like Matt? They are fucking twins. They're
uh,
twins plus or minus 20 years.
you're like, man, I'm going to call you Hase for the rest of the weekend, bro.
I'm obsessed with
Um,
him. He's like out there holding it down for the tall guys, for the gingers, being really sweet.
I
But
love it.
John, I'm telling you, like I could not stop staring at him all weekend. They run the same. They have like the same exact body. They box jump, they squat the same. Like it's a little creepy. I need some ancestry.com shit done, some
Maybe.
23andme done here between the Hustes and the Braziers. This shit's got
Well,
to happen.
I don't know if that's true or not because I didn't see Hase that close, but I did run into Matt, and your husband's a good looking man, Nikki.
Right.
I say that with all love for you and Matt. Dude comes walking up with the baby. I'm like, man, Nikki's probably should be worried. He just walk around with this beautiful baby, and he was wearing his jorts. He had his jorts on.
He loves his jorts.
He had on his jorts. I'm like, man, he's gonna be getting hit on if people didn't know he was your husband. It's like good for him.
You know what? I wish that he did because that would give him a little boost in the old
What a
confidence.
all right, ladies, you heard it here.
You heard it.
Nikki gave you the green light. Go ahead.
100%. Green light. Go tell him how handsome he is. He would love to hear it. He deserves it.
And he was
He
wearing our
was,
merch.
yeah, of course, represent. He was also like on dad duty all week, which was wonderful and lovely. I did. So we went to the games this year with our best friends who also own the affiliate and their 1 year old. And they all, including Matt, got like an Airbnb for the week. And most nights, I would be done with work and I would go back to the Airbnb with them and would like order in dinner. And then I would put Hunter down for bed. And then I would make Matt drive me back to my hotel so I
Um,
could sleep by myself in the hotel. Cause I was waking up at like 5:30 or 6 a.m. to get ready for my call times. And I was like, all my shit's everywhere. I'm like loud, spread out in the mornings. Like I don't have to worry about waking anyone else up or, the Sheraton where we stay is like literally across the street from the venue. So I could just like wake up and walk over and not have to worry about getting a weird Uber at like 7 a.m. So it worked out. But it was funny because I was like, bye, friends and family. I'll see you tomorrow as I go sleep by myself in in a
right.
Sheraton hotel room. Not the most glamorous, but it worked out. It all
Bye.
worked
I'm
out.
leaving with Hoste. Great.
I'm leaving with a younger version of you.
Yes.
No.
Leaving with my new husband.
But Matt was like salty about it the first night because he was like, "You need me to drive you to your hotel?" I was like, "It's 6 minutes away." And he was like, "That's not really conducive to the plans I want to have tonight." And I'm like, "Okay, well, you can have cocktails at 8:10 when you get back from dropping me off after I put the baby to bed. You'll be fine."
I love it. I love it.
Anyway,
I
give
should
me
take a
a
Matt. Should have taken Matt out for drinks. Then he could have complained to me. Fun.
would have been great. Give me a
Next,
hit.
give you a
A
hit.
hit.
Well, I'll stick with the games itself. All the events ran on time and very smoothly. It
100%.
it was well run from and, like, again, back to the bring Dave back thing, like, I don't know what his impact was there, but it was damn near perfect when it comes to running on time, like, you could set your watch to it. I would look
Mhm.
up the events, this one starts at 11:37, and you can bet your ass it started at 11:37.
Yep.
Like, they did a really, really good job of getting people in and out of there. I'm always
Yeah.
impressed, particularly with the volunteer crews that are moving plates and
Mhm.
machines and God knows what, and how quickly they move it in and out and get everything started on time. Like, that's quite an undertaking, to
Yes.
say the least.
There are full ass crews and teams and team leaders dedicated to timing, and that includes every, like, branch that you can think of, from equipment and logistics to operations to signage to especially, like, the judging. The head judges need to run things on time. The head judges coordinate with the broadcast team because we are up and running on broadcast at very specific times that we have 0 wiggle room on, especially in ESPN windows. And so it's just like it's an insane kind of like Rube Goldberg machine that everything has
Right.
to run perfectly together in order for it to work, and it's not surprising to me, especially at smaller events that don't have the resources to hire these true professionals to run these teams. It's not surprising to me that they oftentimes run behind because it's a lot. It's a huge undertaking.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Alright, on to misses.
A schmiss.
The Schmiss. Why you call it Schmiss? It's
I
like
don't
going to
know.
Sheetz. You ever go to Sheetz and everything has an S on the front? I was like, "I wanna get a biscuit and a schmuffin."
A
It's great.
schmuffin.
A schmuffin.
Wear an even keeled medium.
Alright, yeah, alright, here's one. Sean Woolen was wearing a medium, by the way. Every time I saw him on the broadcast, his arms looked monstrously big. He said that was called a TV large. I don't know what that's about, but anyway,
He's just yolked.
he is yoked.
Don't let him tell you
He's
that he's
absolutely
wearing a medium. He is yolked.
he's holding it down for the old bald guys. I appreciate it too. All right, so this is kind of a hit and a miss. It's mostly a miss, but I'm gonna throw a little bit of it in the hit category. So when we're in the Coliseum and sometimes outside, they would have these videos playing that came from they had two that went kind of played in a loop. One was from the coaches series of Scott Panchek and an athlete named Henry.
Love
I know
that video.
yeah, I know Henry. Like I went to that gym. I knew his whole story beforehand, so I watched it several times. Great story. And then they ran what's basically a movie trailer for Small Town Strong, which is based out of Portsmouth, Ohio. And Dale, who's the affiliate owner there, I know I hung out with Dale most of the weekend. So like I knew both stories. And they played those for a loop. And so that's a big, both of those were a hit for me because I thought they were really touching stories, really kind of heartfelt in the community, showed the power and the transformational change that CrossFit brings. And I love that. Loved it. The miss part for me was those were really the only 2 I saw by and large. I know there were
Mm,
a few others, but I felt like you've got moments of particularly in the Coliseum where you have 15, 20 minutes waiting for events and you have a captive audience. Now, a lot of them are headed out for, beer, sodas, popcorn, whatever, but you got a lot of people sitting in the seats. And I'm sitting there going, why are we not seeing a video of Don Fall going, hi, I'm Don Fall, CEO of CrossFit. Let me tell you about the transformational changes CrossFit can bring to your life. Let me tell you what CrossFit's doing for your affiliate. And then you get Austin Maliello coming on going, let me tell you what the affiliate group's doing. Let me tell you what training, Nicole Carroll comes on. Let me tell you what the training team is doing and so on and so forth. Like felt like, you could use that time for, inspiration. You could use it for marketing. You can use it to help affiliate owners understand what their $3,000 a year is funding. There's so many things you could use for it there. And it would cost CrossFit almost nothing to produce that. You have 13,000 affiliates. You can't tell me you can't send out a mass email to that group and go, we need stories. And a lot of them would film it themselves for that matter. You know how many like amazing filmmakers we have in our community.
yeah.
So it just felt like a miss, like an opportunity to speak to the crowd and you got, these 2 stories that were great stories. I'm not, complaining about the 2 you got. I felt like there was a lot that could have been done there that I'd like to see them use that time in the future for educational purposes. For that matter, you could put it around the village. Like I was at the Salvador Dali Museum in
In
Florida. In
Oh,
Florida.
it was, like,
Yeah,
in
yeah. In Florida.
Barcelona? Okay.
No, nope, in Florida. And they had a life like a think of like a big screen TV, but 6 feet tall and it's like a full body size of Salvador Dali talking about his life. And you just stand there transfixed watching it, and
Yeah.
it was AI, so it was a little creepy. But imagine if that were Don Fall or
Yeah.
Austin or
Yeah.
Rich Froning or God knows who telling some story within the community. I just gotta believe people would stop for a minute and listen.
Yeah.
And
I think
you
that's a
know,
great point. I love
so
that. I love that idea. I've said this before on the show probably a million times, but my favorite year ever working the CrossFit Games was 2020 when I was at a desk and it was more of a community storytelling desk in Aromas. And there were that year, the media team had really worked to put together a ton of wonderful, inspirational international stories.
yep,
And so we would like play a package, a 2 or 3 or 5 minute package, telling someone's story. And then I would like live interview them and it was is the most fun I've ever had doing quote unquote coverage because it was like part
right.
1, 2020 games. It was a little weird. It was just wonderful. And I met people there that I will never forget. It was really special. So that's a really cool idea. And if they had that type of content that they had that year mixed in with like the coaching series is a really great example with Scott Panchik. Like I just want more of that. I want more of those stories.
Well, I
Even
wonder
like
even
like little clips from the documentary that just recently came out. That would have been cool.
yeah, I would have loved to seen some of the adaptive athletes who won that didn't get to participate
Totally.
in Madison, like Mikey Witos, who won on the short stature side, he was there.
Yeah.
And, he mentioned to me, he's like, "Man, we didn't even get the same shirt everybody else got. We just got some random Noble shirt," and I'm like, "How easy would it have been to send somebody with the film crew or hell, do a Zoom call for God's sakes. You don't have to go there and interview the guy and then piece it together in a really brilliant video clip. And like you show it to the entire crowd and give this guy props for how hard he worked to be fittest on earth in his division. I just think there's things like that that could be done that could be super inspirational and honestly, like, get some affiliate owners to be thinking differently about their affiliates. Like I can imagine Jen, for instance, my co-owner, going on and talking about the two adaptive groups that
Yeah.
are funded through grant by local government. And
Yes.
how many affiliate owners don't even know that's a possibility for them. And now you've got
Uh-huh.
thousands of dollars a month coming into you paid by the government to run classes to help people be healthier and live fitter lives. And you're getting
Yeah.
paid to do what you were going to do anyway.
Yes.
Like,
Oh, that reminds me. We need to get Tom Miazga?
yes. Yeah. Yeah.
We need to get him on the show because he is starting up like a charity grant type program to get more adaptive athletes into affiliates. I want him to be able to
Oh
tell the
yeah, for
story.
sure.
And also he's a seated champion like over and over and over again. And also he's like the fittest guy ever. And also he's an Olympian.
Yeah.
So I like to joke that he's the only actual athlete there
He's pretty good.
at the CrossFit Games. It's really just him.
He's a damn
And
good athlete.
also, he was on the broadcast again this year, and he was on ESPN. Every time I saw him, I would be like, "Oh my
Good.
god, are you on ESPN?"
Yeah, he's
Well
the man.
deserved. He's the man. He's also just like so handsome. Those blue eyes.
It's all the
I just
above.
can't even.
All of the above. And so here was one that I thought was weird because I didn't actually see it happen, but I saw it after the fact. The games came in and did a post. They did a collaboration post with themselves, which is not uncommon. Most people do that if you have more than one page, but it was CrossFit and CrossFit Games talking about the YouTube chat. Apparently, there were some really nasty comments flowing into the chat.
Of
And I
course
put
there
that
were.
under my miss category because I straight up messaged the games team after semis when people were going in the chat talking about you, by the way.
Mhm. Still
Not
waiting on cash from my gene fund, by the way. Where the
and
fuck is that?
yeah, not only were they talking about you, but they were talking about Mal, they were talking about Haley, and like some pretty gross, like,
Always.
in some
Yeah.
cases they were straight up sexual comments,
Oh
and so
yeah.
I messaged the games team and straight up told them you need to put a chat monitor or moderator on
Yeah.
the YouTube chat. Like it's out of control and it's full of bullying and harassment and horrible statements. And
Yeah.
so instead, like their solution is we're going to Instagram and say be kind. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, no,
Mm.
no,
I do think
moderate it. And by
was
the
there
way,
no moderator on the YouTube feeds for games?
well, apparently
I don't
not.
know. Okay.
I don't know. I can't say yes, but you shouldn't have to go on and say be kind when you can just straight up not let those people in. And I'd given that feedback directly to Don just a few days prior as well. Like that's a mess. Like
That's a miss. It's a miss I can agree with.
they got
Yeah.
to start controlling the chat. Like, particularly again, we're talking about the biggest stage possible. Now you got people from all over the world coming in. Like
Mm,
you need somebody in there. You got
mhm.
tens, not, this isn't like thousands of people watching. You got tens of thousands.
I can't look at it. I always had the chat. I can't do it. Particularly because, like, I'm a human being, and so when mean things are said about me, it's like hurtful, even though you learn to let that stuff roll. I think Danny said something that really resonated with me a couple weeks ago when she was on the show right before games, where I think you had asked her about like what it was like having the target on her back, or did she feel like she had a bigger target for making it or not making it or whatever. And she was like, I will have a target no matter what I do. No matter what I do. I do a great thing, I have a target. I do a bad thing, I have a target. I make the games, I have a target. I don't make the games, I have a target. And I'm starting to feel like that sentiment just resonates with me so well where I was like, I'm not going to like look at the comments. I'm not going to read fucking Reddit threads. I'm not going to whatever. Because I could ask a great fucking question and I'll have some shitty ass comment. I could ask a dumb question and I'll have a shitty ass comment. I could look really beautiful and I'll have a shitty ass comment. I could look like a troll and I'll have a shitty ass comment. There is nothing I can do in the world to prevent shitty ass comments. So why would I bother? And why would I give a shit?
You should lean into the trollness.
I
Go for
thought
extra
about
troll.
it. Well, at one point, someone in the truck told me that I needed to look less shiny in the Coliseum. And I was like, how about you don't put me out in the North Park for 4 fucking hours?
Yeah, there
I
you
won't
go.
be shiny at all.
There you go.
I was like, that is, but in fairness, they were just looking out for me. So that was actually fine. It was a fine comment. But I was
Yeah.
just like, it is hard. There are a lot of expectations on you for being on the stream.
Well, look,
Yeah.
I get that, like, on the list of things, priorities, even thinking about the YouTube chats probably pretty low on their list. But again, like, you got all these free, volunteers out here working in the Noble tent. You can't tell me you can't find one that's a little tech savvy
Mm.
and do this. Like,
Oh,
come
yeah. I
on.
would love to see that happen. That would be great.
I would say by and large, I mean, kind of back into the hits category though, the broadcast that I saw and I had a chance to watch was really well run as I expected it would be. I thought all you guys did a great
Yeah.
job. Uh,
Broadcasting the hit. Whoop, whoop, whoop.
I mean, what I saw was great. I mean, I mean, we can talk about the ESPN thing a little bit. I thought, but the games broadcast, all of you guys, by and large, a few things I'd probably critique, but we didn't need to get into it here for whatever that's worth. I mean, I just think it's a hard.
I'll take your personal feedback
No,
anytime.
no, I think it's a hard thing to pull off. You know what I mean? Like we
Yeah.
mentioned, like the hard question your peer asked. Like, there's a lot of debate whether that was a good question. I thought it was a good question, even though
I
it
thought it was a good
hurt
question.
hurt to
Even yeah.
listen to. There's always going to be some of that debate, but
Yeah.
I think, especially considering how new the sport is, so it's still very new. You guys put on a very professional broadcast, and it's one that
You.
ESPN feels comfortable coming in and streaming. And that's
Huge win. Huge win for the sport. It is massive. Like that, I hope people understand. I saw some comments online that were like, "You can't tell me that putting up a paywall is gonna get more eyes on this sport." And I'm like, Yes, it
oh, it
will."
absolutely will.
Those people don't understand what this means for the sport on a fully, like, outside of our bubble level. I had friends who I've known forever who don't give 2 shits about CrossFit text me over the weekend being like, "I'm at a bar and you just came on." And I was like, "This bar full of how many non-CrossFitters?" Most of them, is watching CrossFit. That's epic. That doesn't happen unless you have a partner like ESPN. The miss involved in all so ESPN, huge, huge win. Win, 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 a million times win. The miss in all of that to me is that it should have been communicated earlier to our very like insular bubble of CrossFit fanatics that they were going to need to get ESPN somehow to watch the final heats
You mean
for
yeah.
if they wanted to watch it live because it all ended up going on YouTube 12 hours later. But if they wanted to watch it live, it just would have been nicer to have that notification earlier. But that isn't fully in CrossFit's control because they were waiting on ESPN as a partner for when they could make those kind of announcements. And they were working on all sorts of like legalese and back end deals and whatever. So
Well,
it's
I'm
not
not gonna
fully their fault.
yeah, well, not fully, but I'm not gonna let them off the hook for that. Come on, it's not like we didn't know the games was happening a year ago. It's when they should have started working on ESPN, not signing it the day before. I mean, that to me, that was the miss. Is like I love that they got it. I think it's great. I was not bothered by the ESPN Plus part. Like the realist in me is like, all right, ESPN wants it to go behind a paywall because they know people will pay for it, their service, and
Mhm.
do this. And we don't mind it going behind the paywall because there's a lot of people behind that paywall that don't know anything about us. So it's a win both ways.
Yeah, 100%.
The complaint is that, they announced it on Thursday for Friday's competition.
I
you
agree.
know?
That would have been great if that were earlier, especially because if people missed that one announcement, then they were just watching, and then all of a sudden the last
Right.
heats were like gone, and they were like, "What am I doing here?" So more communication about that would have been better. But I am just so thrilled about everything that happened with ESPN. It's so huge for our sport, and people worked so hard to make that happen. I'm very proud of everyone within the organization of CrossFit who fought for that partnership, and I'm so proud of the broadcast team who made it work. And man, we were on our best behavior, except for Daniel Brandon, who swore on ESPN.
I heard that. I did
Yep.
love seeing you guys holding the mics with the big E on
Was
the
cool.
front. That was pretty
It was
cool. That was pretty I
uh
like that.
so thrilled. The growth of the sport is coming.
I like that. Well, let's hope so. I mean, they gotta fix some things, but yeah, I definitely think it's possible. Alright, anything else on your list?
Uh, well, our meet and greet was a win.
Yeah, I thought it was okay. Um, no, it was. I
Was
mean,
it a miss?
it wasn't a mess, but it was okay. I mean, we gotta obviously, we gotta meet some people, but, you gotta keep in mind, like, I was doing that all weekend. So, like, it's like I felt like I was moving from one event to the other, so it was a little bit of a blur
Oh,
more than anything else for me. Like, most of that stuff was, like, I would have
okay.
and I'm not sorry, I'm not trying to make it sound like I'm bragging. It's just like it wasn't much to like I had just come that morning from was
The
that our
battle
battle
cancer
the
workout.
battle cancer thing where we had
Yep.
100 people there. So you gotta keep in mind, like my entire morning was filled with 100 people at that thing, you know? So, it was I don't want to say it was anticlimactic. It's just like I started my morning at 7 a.m. taking photos with people. And by the time I get to it was kind of a whirlwind. By the time I got there, I was already mentally fried before I got in the door. That's my point of being exhausted from the games. It starts at 7 a.m. And again, it's like amazingly grateful to be able to meet people and shake hands and talk to them and hear their stories, particularly battle cancer, because some of the stories are heartbreaking. But um, by the time I got back to the event, like I could barely focus. You
Oh.
know? So, that was all.
Well, I don't think I've ever had an appearance before, and I loved it. There's
I
all sorts
thought
of people. When we had them last year, well, last year it was way more casual because I like my schedule was bananas. But it was like we had like a time. We were like, Mickey and John are gonna be here, and people came.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
God, you guys are here. It's so cool. I loved it. I loved
Mhm.
meeting people. That was fun.
Yeah, it was fun. It was fun. Only other thing I had on my list, I thought Vendor Village was pretty good this year.
Yeah, it was great.
I mean, I'm gonna miss Madison, but I thought Vendor Village was good. I thought the jury was out on some of the partnerships. I had a random thought as I was looking at the partnerships, like Jocko was big this year, Fit Aid was tiny, O2 wasn't really there. They were only up in the affiliate lounge. And I'm sitting there going, man, like how many partners has this company gone through in the last couple of years? And the thing that kept going through my head is like partnerships are important, but they go 2 ways. And I had my random thought was, I wonder how good a partner CrossFit is.
Hmm, I don't
Like,
know. I wonder what
why are
all
these
those deals
companies
entail.
I don't know. Why are these companies bailing? I guess is my point. I look at it and go, man, like last year, I'd have to ask Dave, but like last year, O2 gave out $100,000 worth of O2. And this year they were in the affiliate tent with a couple of cases. It was
Yeah,
more
you
than a
should.
couple,
I
but
would love to know. We should ask him.
Fit Aid was barely, not only was Fit Aid barely there, they were charging for cans.
Hmm.
And that no offense to Fide, who I love, like, I mean, I love Aaron and Orion.
Yeah.
I guess just my point is, it's like, partnerships go both ways. And I'm just wondering where the breakdown is.
Yeah.
We've mentioned earlier about if CrossFit's going to be a sport, are they going to get those brands? And you're saying, well, maybe it'll grow out. We don't need to go after Coke and Marlboro and Snickers and whatever random shitty companies I was mentioning. Um, but they're never going to get anyone if they keep flipping partners. Like there's got to be some consistency. So I hope maybe Jocko works out, but I
That'd be
don't know.
cool.
So I
Yeah,
don't
no
know, like,
idea.
I just don't know. It's just again, it's just a random thought of, is CrossFit a good partner? I wanna explore that some, see if I can figure it out.
Yeah, Dave can probably
Um,
tell you. I also wonder if it just has more to I wonder if it also has a lot to do with just the cost of putting on like a live event versus putting your marketing dollars elsewhere and what has a better like ROI for these brands because it's an expensive
well, sure.
undertaking to come out there and bring your gear and give stuff out and sell stuff and staff it and actually So Haven, which is a newer brand within our space, which is now the official gym bag of the CrossFit Games, and they had a really great activation at Games. They're the guy who runs that brand, Caleb. We're going to get him on the show in a couple weeks, and I have all sorts of nerdy marketing questions about how a brand even begins to break into our space and quickly, I feel like, become a partner of the games and have a presence live at the event and what that does for the brand and was it useful? We'll ask him all those questions when he comes on.
Yeah, I guess my thought was is I've just seen all these brands come and go, and this year there's a lot of new brands, like Go Ruck was there. Obviously, Tier's one that's coming in, kinda
Mhm.
hard and heavy. Rad was there, like all these new shoe companies and new brands were there.
Totally.
And, and then I'm seeing companies that have been more established in the space, like, pulling back, and I to your point, is it a case of, they don't get good return on investment, or is it a case that they don't have the same enthusiasm toward the brand that I've said I kinda witnessed in the members, you know?
Yeah. Or are they even like growing outside of the brand? Like it was interesting to listen to Danny talk about like wanting to be more than just CrossFit. And Fit Aid has all sorts of other partnerships and all sorts of other products that are even like focused that they have like golf aid and all those other things. Like I just wonder if those brands are even growing in other directions that maybe aren't centric around the sport of fitness.
Yeah, I
Who
don't know.
knows people? We should ask. That's a good point.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I definitely wanna ask some people to find out how they view CrossFit as a partner, because I my gut tells me that CrossFit's got some work to do on the way they're handling the partnerships. Whether that makes them a good partner or not, I'm not speculating. I'm just saying there sounds like there's probably some work to do or people wouldn't be leaving. It's kinda like we always measure turnover in banking. If people are leaving, they're not leaving you because they're finding better jobs. They're leaving because they don't like you. Like, it's really kinda that simple. Like, people leave jobs because they don't like their boss more often than not. Sometimes they leave for more money,
I was like,
they
I would do it for more money.
usually they don't even look if they're happy.
Oh, that's
You know?
interesting.
And
Yeah.
partnerships are really no different. If they feel really good about your future and where the company's going and what you're doing, like, they'll put up with some crap because they feel really good about it. There's gotta be a little give and take because they have their own company to run, but when they start not feeling so good about it, they start, to your point, looking at ROI and figuring out where can I grow elsewhere? And I'm just curious why that is. Some of these brands coming in are very cool, so it could just be better brands are coming in, like Rad and
Yeah.
Tier were both there. Rad had their little pop-up shop. Tier had an actual booth.
Yeah.
They sponsored, like, half of the freaking athletes. You saw those
Yeah.
ugly yellow shoes everywhere.
Yeah, that was
Um,
an intense green this year as a
yes.
colorway. But, yeah, and then Jocko, as you mentioned, is actually a big brand, so that was a cool partnership to bring in. There was milk everywhere, which
Yeah,
is also
I had a
how
cou
Hunter says milk.
I had a couple of cans of the Jocko Fuel. I can't say I loved it, but it got me through the caffeine I needed.
Did you
I
try
did
the mole?
No, I've had the milk before. I didn't try it. I did find out I did specifically ask the team how many cans I could have before I needed to be, somebody needed to call 911. They said the limit's 5.
Airlifted. Oh, is it? That was
They
very
said 5.
specific. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're like, I'm like, "How many of these can I do before you guys are gonna be concerned about me?" They're like, "Well, the most we've ever done is 5. That's all we would suggest." I'm like, "Okay."
5 is kind of a lot.
Like, you gotta pump those numbers up. Those are rookie numbers. Those are rookie numbers. We're just eyeballing my list if I had anything left. Probably the only other 2 things I had on my list, I felt like the focus on the affiliate seemed less this year than
Really?
last year, a little bit.
Okay. I don't have any context other than, like I said, we went with our best friends who are the affiliate owners of the gym that we go to, and they spent a lot of time up in the affiliate lounge, and they said it was wonderful, and they got
Oh,
all
the
sorts of
lounge is
stuff
great.
and met all sorts of people, and it had things that they could attend and seminars that they could go to. Like it just seemed, I don't know, not an affiliate owner,
Well, yeah, again,
but
there were tons of seminars. It just felt less than last year. I'm not saying it was. I'm just saying what it felt like.
oh,
But that could be a maybe a process of just because it isn't new anymore, and I was maybe looking for it to be an increase, and it wasn't. And maybe I missed some of it, so it's not completely fair for me to say it was less. It just felt less to me.
mm,
But what I saw felt great, you
oh,
know. So hold on, my cat's
bean.
being an asshole.
Yeah.
And then other than that, the only other thing I had on my list was Madison was really lovely, and I'm sad it's not gonna be there.
Yeah, it felt weird leaving. Where like I have been in the city for so long, year over year. Even the people who work at the Sheraton bar are the same year after year, and they know us, and they know our names, and they know my cheese curd order. Like, it was just sad leaving little Dane County Airport with its, like, one terminal. I don't know where we're gonna go, but Madison was a really lovely home for us.
I know where we're going,
Oh, you do.
but I'm not gonna say.
Cahoots. Cahoots.
Well, I heard from 2 or 3 people, and I'm not gonna say because it's not my place to say, and the last time I spoiled something, I got just totally demolished on Instagram for it. But I will
Which
say
you
this,
apologized for.
I'm not gonna do that again. I'm just not gonna spoil it. But what I will say is if I'm right, I have a meme ready to go within seconds of it being announced.
Wow, okay.
So if I'm right and you see that thing come out, like literally they announce it and a meme comes 30 seconds later, you're gonna know it's because I knew. You're all gonna know because I
Bam. Yeah, probably smart not to say anything. Also because things seem to change last minute too, and deals are not deals until they're signed with blood.
yeah, I think this one's right though.
Oh,
But we'll see. I've been wrong before, they maybe it could just be subterfuge. Maybe they're just like, "Okay, let's leak some stuff out and it's gonna end up being in Timbuktu." Like, who knows? But
huh.
we shall see. I went with multiple sources. So
Oh, okay.
once I found out, I went to somebody else. I'm like, "Hey, does this sound right?" And then I went to a third person that didn't know. I went to the other 2. I'm like, "Does this sound right?" And we'll see.
Everybody's in cahoots.
Everybody's in cahoots. So
Cahooters.
we'll see. We shall see. So that was the week. Fun times.
So good.
I'm ready to take a year off.
Yeah, I need a vacation away from my vacation.
Yeah, no shit.
Yeah, I'm tired. But my kid is too.
Oh, I saw that. I know,
Isn't that
that's
wild?
crazy.
Yeah,
That is
crazy.
crazy. They
So
grow up
big.
quick.
They
Mine
do.
called me today from vacation, so you have that to look forward to.
Oh,
It's
I
nuts.
know. Every night I put him to bed and I'm like, I can't believe we're gonna move out of my house someday.
That's what happens. They just
Oh,
grow up and move on.
maybe he'll just stay.
He might. My oldest has done that. She's still living here. I mean, she's on vacation right now, but, he might do that too.
I would love
Me
that.
you say that now.
I think I mean it.
Okay. Ask me again in 20 years. We'll see how you
Matt
feel
was
then.
like Matt was like, "Wait till he starts dating some girl and you're not the only girl in his life." And I was like, "Hopefully he gets married someday to a wonderful man and I can just stay the only woman in his life."
Mm. See, you say that. It might be worse. You never know. You never know.
Right. You're
You never
right.
know.
Mm.
All right. Well, this has been fun as
This
always.
was fun. It was lovely to see you in person.
I know. It's
We'll
nice.
do it same time, new place next year.
Yeah, it'll have to be the games because I'm not going to semis. So it'll have to be the games. That'll be the next
Okay.
thing. That'll be the next thing I go to if I go to it. So we'll see.
We'll see what the year and the season shakes out to look like.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk more about that on other shows. They're going to make some changes to make me go back to any of these events, but we'll get to that at another time. So, all right. Well, for everyone listening, we appreciate you guys joining. We hope to see you guys at an event soon, and we'll chat with you guys soon.